If you spend 10 minutes on the wellness internet, you'll learn that women's health is governed by a single vengeful hormone called cortisol, and that you should eat according to the phases of your own body like it's a tiny moon, and that carbs are a personal betrayal. You'll also learn that most fitness research was done on men. And all those things are kind of true. But somewhere between the science ignored you and so here's a protocol synced to your cycle, the actual science may have slipped out the back. Today, we try to find a little sanity. Welcome to Build for Health, the show that redefines strength because muscle isn't just for looks. I'm Pete Wright here with trainer Surgeon Inyats. Hello, Surgeon.
Hello.
Oh, it's a very exciting day. It's a red letter day. Yeah, we're very excited. We actually have two guests. First, returning champ, Brooke Passey. Hello, welcome back,
Hello.
Brooke.
Hello, glad to be here.
And Kayla Gallion is here, first time.
Yes, first time.
Joining us. We're very excited to have you both here. And we are going to talk about women's health and strength and training and all of the things that are just plumb different for men and women in the gym. And so excited that you two are here to lead the charge.
We are excited to be here.
I can hear it. I hear the enthusiasm just bubbling over. Here we go. Let's start with I think the durable answer for everyone across bodies is build and protect muscle and bone. Let's just I think we can all agree that everyone needs muscle and bone. What changes when programming for a woman versus a man in the gym? Somebody comes into you, what changes and what stays the same? Can we start with that little bit of foundation setting? Brooke, OG, why don't you start?
Yeah, absolutely. So honestly, there isn't a whole lot that changes if you were to look, side by side between a program that I've built for a female client and a male client. It's the same exercises. There's no fancy, you should be doing these yoga things and doing more Pilates and this and that. Actually, we need to do the same stuff as men. It's usually what's different is the intensity and how much weight you're lifting depending on where you're at in your cycle and how you feel energy wise day by day. It's going to be different. So that's kind of my simple take on it.
Okay.
What do you think, Kayla?
I would say it's also different with the levels of estrogen and your different cycles of your period too. But a lot of times, most women I train, they kind of have a fear of is it going to make me bulky? Is this too much weight? And it's a lot of more about maintaining the weight and eating right. And it's not much more of getting bulky or looking a certain way compared to if a guy does it.
Yeah, there's that we've talked about that before on the show. I think the idea of busting that particular myth, what it takes to really be bulky, is not something that is a major risk factor across body types.
Yeah, because there's not much difference between the men I train versus the women. Everyone is pretty similar, just different high intensity and impact on weight.
You guys sent a list of high-level topics that you wanted us to talk about. And the first one, with arrows pointing to it and bold print and everything that sort of the orbit is, the gravitational pull is strong with this one, is GLP-1.
It's a huge one.
Yes.
It's okay.
It's
all right.
One,
it's a big one. And
it's trending right now.
Super trending everywhere. And we just talked about it last week. Surgeon has, you guys might be surprised to hear this, has opinions.
He's got many.
Let's start with the headline, right? Our miracle weight loss drug. What's the part that's not on the box that you guys are running into in the gym?
Well, okay, so this is what I ran into recently, and I actually just started working with a client who has been on GLP-1 for 9 months, and she had to get off of it because it was making her very ill. And she was saying how she just was having all of these issues that she never had before taking it. She couldn't she couldn't eat. She was throwing up all the time. And, she's going through perimenopause. So, her cycle is going to be completely different and look different than, a 20-year-old like me. And so she, something that we have been really focusing on together is, rebuilding kind of like what was lost, because she lost a lot of muscle mass on this GLP-1. And it's something that she kept track of. She did like the InBody scan and was, her doctor actually did not recommend it, but she decided to do it because it was trending, and regrets it. And now we are kind of rebuilding that strength back up, muscle back on her body so she can start, feeling a little better.
So this is where surgeon is like, can you see him in the video? He's like literally biting his tongue.
I actually had a similar situation too, but the client's body fat went way up.
Wait, what? That's literally not on the box.
But she wasn't really continuing with her workouts.
So she took the weight loss drug and then proceeded to clearly take in more calories somehow and stopped working out.
Somehow her body fat went up and she stopped working out, and she's been kind of on and off with the drug. And I know getting off it, you can gain a lot of weight if you don't have a consistent routine with your workouts.
Right. Well,
absolutely.
That's what we've. That's really consistent. Well, the gaining weight part while on the drug, I think is counter to broad experience. But what we do see is that a quarter of the weight lost roughly is lost to muscle, but bone density drops too. And especially when you're talking about women in the gym trying to maintain during a cycle of GLP-1, that can be not only unhealthy, but dangerous.
Especially with your cycle.
Yes. Well, so when you talk about like with GLP-1, what it does is it makes it so you're not hungry. Like it messes with your hunger signals in your brain. And if you look into kind of like what happens over time when women fast over like a prolonged period of time, it directly, correlates with, reproductive hormones and issues with lower estrogen, lower progesterone, delayed ovulation, irregular periods, and the loss of periods altogether. And a lot of women, just from the fasting will have worse PMS, worse luteal symptoms, more anxiety, sleep disruptions, infertility challenges. And that's just with that. And so when you think about what happens when, you're not lifting weights and you're not eating regularly like you're supposed to, and the GLP-1 kind of messes with that in itself, the bone density becomes a big problem. It becomes a big concern because estrogen is protective of bone. And when your estrogen drops, bone breakdown increases and bone building decreases. And over time, osteopenia can develop, which eventually leads to osteoporosis, and which is going to be like, in my opinion, the next, 10 to 20 years, we're going to start seeing women coming in, with all these different issues with bone density and joints.
You think this is the like non-trivial outcome of this wave of people on these GLP-1 drugs is that we're going to have a generational cost, a generational bill comes due, which is loss of calcium and bone density that we won't see.
They just want to do it right away, just to not do it the right way, so they can get faster results, but it's not always right.
Well, and this was what we were talking about last week, right, Surgeon? Which is the idea that once you lose a little weight, let's say you absolutely need the drug, and the drugs for what they are able to do are magical, right? Magic of modern pharmaceuticals that they're able to do this stuff, but they're also behaviorally a little bit addictive. And where we kind of landed was that clients come in and they say, okay, I've lost 100 pounds and I only have 60 more to go and I'm in my weight zone, but I don't want to get off it. I don't want to get off it because this has made it easy. And that changes the behavior in the gym too. Have you guys run into this?
just like a lot of the muscle mass too. Like that's a huge part because that's burning your fat. So I just feel like you're not maintaining the right, healthy diet and physique wise too.
Yeah. I think also it's a mindset thing too. Like when you have somebody who has learned to rely on a pill for their results, there's a lot of, instant gratification that happens with that. And that's not really how health and fitness works, and on the long term, right? So I would say like delayed gratification, is something that our generation really struggles with. We have the reels, everything is instant. And it's like somebody who's not seeing results fast enough, they want to get something that's going to get them results really fast. And they don't really care what it takes to get to that point, but it's dangerous. And so when you have somebody who comes in and they've been on GLP-1 multiple times because they saw that that worked, and they're not paying attention to or even like learning about what that could be doing to them in the long run, it can be kind of a challenge to work with somebody who, hasn't learned how to eat properly and do these things knowing that they can do it on their own, versus thinking they need that assistance from a medication or injection.
And it becomes kind of like an obsession too.
Yeah.
Well, we talked about last time how the people are just focused on that number, on just the scale, because that's all they do. They just stay on the scale. They look at that number and they just want to lose weight. They're not realizing what they're losing, what that weight is. And they're automatically thinking it's all fat. I'm losing weight. This is a good thing, right? And that's what they get addicted to, get those fast results, not realizing they're using the muscles. And then they're making things actually worse. They're actually getting more unhealthy than they were before that. So it's creating all the problem. But addiction is, they're so fixated on that number on the scale, which I'm like, you got to stay away from that. That's why we have the in-body measurements here, and we take the measurements to look at your body fat and your muscle mass at the same time. So we see the weight that you're losing and what needs to be gained, because they're focused on the wrong thing. They're always thinking about what they need to lose instead of what they need to gain, right? So that's why they're so addicted to that drug. If you use it for a medical reason, it's great. It's a good drug. Okay, I'm fine with that. But if they're using it for a wrong purpose,
Right.
altogether.
Agreed.
So if there's somebody like 300 pounds obese, of course, you give them a little bit of it, but you have to cut them off, because you want to decrease their appetite, because they're eating probably 400 or 500,000 calories. I mean, but then during that process, you got to teach them and educate them about nutrition and how to eat, what to eat right. So that way, when they get off, they can continue that journey in losing weight, but the right weight, and not be so addicted to the drug. This drug is not a solution.
It's like a mental thing too.
This drug might take weight from your femur. I think would have a different warning kind of signal. I want to transition, because I think this is a good place to do it. Transition to this whole concept around fasting and keto, and I'm putting those intentionally in the same bucket, because they both, they produce fast scale drop, right? Which is kind of the segue here, but the same question applies. What are you actually losing by focusing on that number, doing it through this fasting and keto strategy? So what are you seeing when people come into you to talk to you in the gym?
Well, I actually have an example with myself. Before I really got into fitness, I heard like a lot of keto diets, like that's the way to do it. So I did it myself, and I actually like risked a lot of muscle mass loss, like 30 pounds. And my period too, like lost that for almost a year. And like, it was just like, I was so like about the scale. And that's why I always tell my clients, like the scale isn't always going to reflect like how much weight you lose, because you're also losing muscle mass too.
30 pounds ain't nothing. Holy cow.
It was a rough time. I had to wake up and just realize like that's not how you do it. And then it actually really got me more into personal training. So
Okay, weird silver lining flex, but yeah, welcome aboard. But holy
There's a
cow,
little change there.
So what is it that I maybe we should peel apart fasting versus keto, because they are different specific strategies, right? I mean, is this are you seeing fasting as a strategy that works in parallel with the gym, and how does keto play into that? Can we define some terms? Who wants the baton?
I will hold the baton a little bit. So keto is when you cut out carbs from your diet for the most part. The keto diet is very much like, I want to cut out things that are, like bready items. Like you want to eat like lots of, veggies, fruits, like whole foods. And from my standpoint on those things, it's good to do those things, but not cut out the carbs, because your body thrives on carbs. It needs carbs, for energy. And so that's with keto. And then with fasting, I think that people kind of intermix the two, because when you're on keto, it feels like you're fasting, it feels like you're starving because you are, but then with fasting, it's, choosing to go without eating entirely for a period of time. And so intermittent fasting is used, it's very common for people to do. It works for people. I wouldn't recommend it to any female in the gym or trying to lose weight or any of that for that. I would think, like, if you're trying to build mental toughness, intermittent fasting can work, as a woman. But, it's just, there's so much that can go into that, just kind of simple baseline with that.
I from my own experience with women in my life, what I know about those who take the keto track, and maybe Kayla, this is kind of where your life sort of relates to this, is that it can have a very dramatic impact on thyroid and
even how you feel with your energy levels.
Sure. And so, and more so in women, and in lean, active women too. So the more fit you get, the worse impact, or the greater the negative impact fasting and keto diets can have on you, which is the grand, cruel, ironic joke of these strategies to lose weight. You are almost guaranteed to be less fit and have less energy. Is that a fair assessment?
Yes.
Yes, totally.
It is. When you decide to go without, proper nutrients in your diet, I mean, when your calories are too low for too long, like muscle protein synthesis decreases, your recovery worsens, your strength gains are really slow, and eventually muscle loss can occur, and things like workouts are harder, and you have more soreness, and everything is plateaued at that point,
Surgeon, are you fasting right now? Is that why you're so quiet?
No, I'm not actually. I'm eating a lot of carbs, but if I'm giving the macros to somebody who wants to cut the carbs, and it's fine. So low carb is a reduction, while like keto is a complete metabolic shift.
Is no carb at all.
So
take away.
I don't think any woman should be eating less than 150 grams per day. So going down lower, like more extreme, like keto diets, it can affect the reproductive hormones. So the carbs, they do play a role in supporting hormones like estrogen, for example. And when intake is too low for too long, some women may experience irregular cycles or even miss periods. So that's pretty much your body essentially saying, hey, we don't have enough energy coming in to support normal function. So it's not the keto is, inherently bad, but it can be too aggressive for many women, especially if the goal is that long-term health, performance, and just a balance. So the key is finding a balance, not going to the extreme.
Exactly.
Right? So
because your body goes in fight or flight mode too.
You're starving it of stuff it really, really
starvation
needs.
mode.
By lowering the, that dropping the calories too low, it can impact the thyroid function by lowering the active thyroid hormone, which can lead to like feeling that tired call just sluggish, can also increase like the cortisol, your stress hormone, so that combination of low carbs, high stress, and activity can, start to work against you instead of for you. So it's just, you got to make sure that you're at the right carb intake.
Balance really matters when you're a woman.
Especially in fitness. Like, I feel like with me personally, I need just like 2 days where I'm like, I'm not, not on track. I just need to.
I know it seems like Kayla just dropped off in mid-sentence, but that was when the internet decided to put a hex on her and she left the show quite suddenly. Now, in fact, she did come back, but her recording never recovered. So from now on, Kayla's gone, but she's gone with love. And she said some really nice things. And unfortunately, we're going to have her come back to say them again at some point. And we miss Kayla very much. But for the rest of the show, we're not actually ignoring Kayla. She's wonderful. And her audio just did not come through for the rest of the show. I'm sorry. And now back to the rest of us. Well, and speaking of hormones, right? Let's get to the whole discussion of fitness and getting to the gym and thinking about just your cycle. Like, how do you strategize around that?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, I mean, you guys, I don't know if you know this, but there's a lot of propaganda around this topic on fitness social media. I don't really truck in those circles, but oh my God, I talked to my wife about it, and this is crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So
it's trending.
What's real? What is nonsense? Like what I'm hearing is that there is a whole lot of research that hasn't been done around this, but they sure went straight to here's a $40 cycle calendar that will tell you when to lift heavy things and when not to. That it largely is debunked. I don't know. What is your experience? What are you dealing with?
Well, the problem with these that women or even men are claiming is that like most women are very different from each other. And so like my cycle is going to be completely different from Kayla's, and how we feel. And there are things that are very similar that like I can provide my professional advice to another female who is trying to lose weight and work out regularly, but her cycle and her needs are going to be completely different than mine. So a lot of it is mapping and personalization, which is why I love what I do, because I can't do these things unless I get to know somebody. So selling like a $40 like mapped out thing for workout plan for your
it just
client.
Says, hey, do yoga on day 22. Yeah, like, what does that even mean?
It's not going to do them any good unless you know kind of how they are through their cycle, right? And it can get kind of crazy and woo, but as long as you stick to like, well, one, if they're having the regular 4 phases, if they're in perimenopause or not. And a lot of women are on birth control and don't have like a regular period. And so they don't even know where they're at half the time. And that can be a battle in itself. And so, I will kind of map out like, okay, your menstrual phase, you're going to feel, this is when your hormones are at an all-time low and you're going to want to rot on your couch, and so eat whatever you want. And movement is going to be your best friend. And try to eat, feel your body trying to give into the cravings, too much, but don't go too crazy. And then your follicular phase, which is the next, phase there, you start to feel better. Your estrogen, rises most of the time if you have a healthy cycle, and your body prepares for ovulation. That's usually when you can start hitting PRs in the gym. Between follicular and ovulation, you're strongest. That's the best phase. And so my female clients, when they're in this phase, they're usually like, wow, I feel really strong today. I feel really good. So we'll take advantage of that, let them lift heavy. And then luteal is kind of your worst nightmare. It's the PMS phase. It's the scary phase. For most women, you feel psychotic. You're more tired, you're more emotional, you have higher progesterone. So usually, you feel, yeah, that's where the more tired comes in. The cravings are there. And it's when you feel the most weak. And it's when showing up is the hardest, is in your luteal phase. And that's actually when you need the most support in your diet, is in your luteal phase. So it's like these things, kind of like, to go back to your question, is like, you can't just give it to somebody you haven't really had a full conversation with and experienced that with them. I can't give this to somebody in the beginning of working with them. It's kind of like a month in at least. Does that make sense? Every woman is different. So it's all about balance.
It's all about balance, but it's all,
Back to that.
I mean, you'll note Surgeon and I are predictably quiet when addressing most of these issues.
He's like so silent.
Yeah, we're just going to be real quiet. Let you guys do it. But part of it is like when you say like there is a one of the phases where you're like, okay, let's take advantage of it and lift heavy. I don't think I heard you say at any point, stop coming to the gym any other time.
Correct.
Right? So what's your strategy for like people who know they want to stay active and fit? And I mean, how does the actual gym routine change your expectations of them as a trainer beyond like, okay, we're only going to lift heavy 1 week?
It depends on how they feel. Like there is like a genuine I cannot get out of bed today, and then lazy. And you kind of have to find where that line is with them. I tell them I'm a victim to that myself. And if I push myself too hard, everything backfires. So you have to, as women, we have to learn to adapt to what we're given and not to push. And so sometimes it's like, okay, you're dealing with these things. Yes, you didn't lift as many times this week as I would have liked you to, but I want you to go for a walk. I want you to get outside. I want you to move your body. I want you to stretch. And I want you to follow your nutrition plan, because ultimately that's going to make you feel better, because what you're not getting in with exercise, you still need to support from your diet and your body. With all these hormonal changes, you need support from your diet no matter what. So it's like, you don't need to change these things just because you're bleeding. You have to adapt with that. Don't push PRs on your period. Just move your body and do what feels good, but still move.
Okay, let's transition to our last kind of major topic here, and that is cortisol. Who necessary, daily rhythm, enemy. Who's to know? Who's to know? So where do you want to talk? Where do you want to start at your perspectives on cortisol and its impact on the gym?
So the thing is, like, most people don't actually understand what cortisol does.
And yet they blame it for everything, right?
Yeah, but the truth is cortisol is not a bad hormone. It's actually essential. So it helps you regulate your energy, your blood sugar, your sleep-awake cycle, and, even your ability to handle stress in the first place. So you do need cortisol to function. The issue isn't cortisol itself. It's when it stays elevated for a long period of time. And because now it's a chronic stress. Where you get poor sleep, under eating, or just constantly running your body into the ground. That's when it can start affecting everything: recovery, energy, just overall health. So the cortisol by itself, like I said, it's not a bad hormone. It's a chronic stress. So that's what people don't understand, and they blame cortisol for everything. And you'll see all over the social media where they stress along is like causing, fat to accumulate, especially around that midsection. And, there's just a small piece of truth there. And it's like chronically elevated cortisol, it can influence fat distribution, and is often associated with more abdominal fat. And it's what really happens is that chronic stress affects your behavior. So it can increase the craving, disturb sleep, lower recovery, and make it harder to stay consistent with your training and nutrition.
Right.
So it's not that cortisol is the direct cause, but it can contribute to an environment where the fat gain becomes more likely, especially around that midsection.
Right. With everything that we talked about with the fasting and the GLP-1 and all of these things, the hormonal cycle and everything. It's with women, everything has to be about balance, right? And when things are out of balance, that's kind of when stress, increases. And like Sir John said, when stress is increased and there for a prolonged period of time, that's when you have cortisol levels, going up. And that's where you would see things like that. And a lot of the times it's like the belly fat thing. Like if somebody has high cortisol, that's usually like not their biggest concern. It's like, I literally feel like I can't get out of bed today. Like I'm so low motivation. I'm so low energy. I feel like my body is going against me. I feel so out of control with my emotions and my cravings and things. Like those sorts of things are kind of what you're going to be dealing with, and not so much like I can't lose this, this fat that is here, and that can happen with high cortisol, but it's not something that we should be jumping the gun to.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think there are two angles. First of all, the issue of cortisol as it relates to mental and emotional health, right? And chronic stress.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
number one. And number two is making assumptions around cortisol. And this is where I would love you guys to dig in just a little bit, making assumptions around cortisol as it relates to the monthly cycle and water retention. And, we talked about like carbs and keto. Those things also impact water retention and bloating and all of those things that you deal with that can impact performance in the gym, and certainly have to impact your mood and willingness and ability to hit the gym and be at your best.
Absolutely. Well, I also think it kind of goes in with itself. It's like you have somebody that's so not motivated, but has all these things. And it's like in the exercise is what they need to just get in the gym and you'll start to feel better. But it's getting here and moving your body and moving some weight. And, that happens in the cycle. Like the luteal phase is what I talked about. This is the phase where you would have the most water retention and bloating and, like you mentioned. And so it's like you're already feeling low about yourself as a woman in that because you don't like what you see in the mirror when it's just your body doing what it's supposed to do.
Because I have a lot of clients that come in, and women especially, they see that scale go up a couple pounds and they immediately assume something's wrong hormonally and they're gaining fat. But the reality is that the body weight can fluctuate during that a lot from day to day, especially for them. And the most of it has nothing to do with fat. It's completely normal to see those swings of 2 to 5 pounds in a single day, literally. So just from things like you said, water retention, sodium intake, carbohydrate intake, digestion, and hormonal changes throughout the cycle. So even though the workout can cause temporarily that inflammation, water retentions, so people say I gained 3 pounds overnight. It's not the body. That's not a fat. That's your body adjusting.
It's doing what it's supposed to do, and in your luteal phase, yeah, like for example, when you have higher progesterone, which is, in your luteal phase, that's what's supposed to happen. You will have more water retention. It affects your sleep. It affects like cravings, your energy. And it also slows down your digestion. And so just those factors can create, that perfect storm for bloating, which is when women are like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with me? I'm putting on 5 pounds overnight. I'm going backwards. And it's like, no, I'm going to hold your hand when I say this. You just need to give it another week. I promise you are on the right track. Just keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, I eat a good sandwich and I wake up and I'm 3 pounds heavier, but it's pretty predictable. I know where that came from. That mystery 10 pound swing across 3 days is something it's unrelatable. So it's just saying again and again, it's totally normal is really important to just reinforce. I would love it if you would share just one thing. Women listening to this, what do you recommend each of you? One thing a woman can take from this conversation and ignore everything else online for a month. What is the one thing that you would have them do? Number one, Monday morning, here's a thing you should ignore everything else that you see online. Do this thing.
If it would be like not to listen to the things that you see on social media and be intuitive and listen to your body, and kind of find that middle ground of, what am I feeling today? Can I push myself? Where can I improve? But where can I let what can I let give so I can adapt to what's going on? Don't push yourself when it feels like you shouldn't.
Just pretty much make sure.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, make sure that you don't look for shortcuts. That's the thing. Stop looking for shortcuts. Nothing that's going to get you there fast is probably not healthy for you. Stop depending on medications, looking for a medication to get you there. Fitness is a lifestyle. And then don't fall for all these diets and things like that, and then not eating and starving yourself and going such a low carb diets and things like that. So it's like extreme. It's everyone's looking for that shortcut. Stop doing that. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. So make sure you focus on your nutrition, educate yourself, and stop looking for all the trends that are going on. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
This is awesome, you guys. Thank you. Yeah, do it the hard way. I gotta go because I've got like 400 clavicular clips I need to go watch. I've got some looks maxing I need to be working on right now. But this has been really great. Thank you, all of you, for doing this. And everybody listening to this, in the show notes, swipe up in the show notes, you'll find the little link to send a question. You send a question, we'll get the question answered by anyone who's on this show today. I might answer it wrong, and then someone else will answer it right. It'll be absolutely great. You can find us at elevatefitnesshillsboro.com, right? Is that still right? Did I just get that right?
It's elevatefitnesspdx.com.
elevatefitnesspdx.com. That's
you
where you
almost
can find
had
us.
it.
Almost had it.
Close.
And it is in Hillsboro. And you come in, you can work with any one of these fine people. They're all fantastic. And we would encourage you to do so. Brooke Passey and Kayla Gallion, which is like a superhero name if I've ever heard one. I've been saying it all day. I'm like, there is a superpower hidden in this woman, and I can't wait.
That's amazing.
And Surgeon Inyats, I'm Pete Wright. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week in the gym.